Today is April 5th, 2023. This is the fourth episode of the Yankees Kingdom podcast. Today we're recapping the Phillies series. And I'm your host, Sean Vowles, and today I'm joined by Jackson Treneman and Chris Lorenzo. Guys, another series in the books, another series win in the books. Initial takeaways from the series. You know, we saw the Phillies really kind of struggling on all sorts of levels coming in. But we got the job done. So, initial thoughts on the series?
Yeah, it's always nice to win a series. Doesn't matter who you're playing, if you're playing the worst team or the best team. And right now, the Phillies don't look too good with all the injuries that they have, but still got to take advantage. And I was really upset with the lineup decision for Game 2 of this series. I feel like it was a total punt, as we say. Like, we just kind of didn't even put up a fight, and we only had 4 hits. So, I mean, besides that game, I was really happy with the series, and I thought we played a great series.
No, I thought it was great. The pitching was really good, and I think that the punt lineups are here to stay as much as we hate them. There's going to be off days for these guys, probably on a rotation. We've kind of seen it. DJ Glaber, Stanton, Rizzo. I think Judge may be the only one who's kind of in there basically every day until Bader's back at least. But I mean, again, a punt lineup from day to day isn't the worst thing. The only issue is there are things that happen, and now we're going to see no Stanton today, no Stanton tomorrow because of the rain off day, and then you play all these games in a row. So I think we're going to talk about how their rotation could be affected because they didn't think that they were going to need a fifth starter until the 12th. Now it could be much earlier than that. So the Yankees try to get a little fancy with their decision making. Sometimes I think it backfires from time to time, but overall another series win, so you can't complain.
Yeah, I don't think any other moves that we need to talk about. There was an injury. We'll talk about it after, though, because it'll kind of go into what happens next. But I think we're ready to get into Game 1. So, Game 1 was an 8-1 Yankees victory. The Phillies were winless at the time, and they did not look like they were going to win a game all year. Yankees got on Taijuan Walker early, as the Yankees have in the past when he was in Queens. And so we had an RBI ground out from Stanton in the first inning, and then another infield single off the pitcher by Glaber to make it 2-0, and then Torres hit a solo shot in the third to make it 3-1. Phillies pulled one back in the fourth, but a two-run homer by Rizzo in the fifth, a two-run double by Cordero in the fifth, and then Trevino singling Cordero in, made it 8-1, and that was it. Really good game, top to bottom, pitching staff hitting. Everybody did a good job. I think Nestor went 5 innings, 7 hits, just 1 earned, 80 pitches. So, obviously not the full way, but pretty good for him. We know he got started a little late in spring. Then Ian Hamilton got 5 outs. Then Loizaga got 4, and then Clay finished the job. So, we'll go to Jackson first for this one. Thoughts on Game 1? Anything that we need to talk about, really? I mean, Kiner came in to play as a defensive replace, but we knew that Judge was fine because he was in there the next day.
My takeaway from the game is that I'm just happy Nestor is back. I mean, the way that he attacks hitters is unlike any of the pitchers we have. Even we'll talk about it more in game 3, but even today, Cole was kind of nibbling around the edges. Nestor, his stuff is probably quote unquote the worst out of any pitcher in terms of his velocity and stuff like that. Now he has really good off speed pitches and he really works his cutter in from time to time, but he just attacks hitters. And I really think that's the key to success for someone like him, and I think it's really refreshing to see him get ahead of guys and keep attacking. And his stuff plays up, and I'm really happy that he's healthy because at the moment we really do need healthy pitchers. And obviously Cole is Cole, but we need a second guy right now, and Nestor's stepping up to be that guy once again.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we didn't cover, not too important, but that heads up play by Nestor when Cordero overthrew in the fifth inning, and that got us out of the inning. That was just a heads up play, and he fired it to DJ. DJ made a nice tag, and that was just like I was pumped on that play. I was so mad when I saw that throw coming in because I thought we were gonna give a run, but that was just a heads up play, and that was just awesome to watch. He does stuff like that all the time.
He does. I don't think I've
Nestor,
ever
yeah.
seen that type of play. I don't think I've
I
ever seen
know.
The good old 9-1-5
ball
putout.
off the play and then throw him out. I mean, it could not have been drawn up more perfectly. Marsh was stunned. It was crazy.
Yeah, he threw up.
And remember when he made that diving right, he dove onto the base last year, like that. He just does all these things that you're just like, he's like, under this body, there's an athlete. Like that was his quote, and I just thought that perfectly describes him. Like that was just such a good quote.
Yeah,
Yeah, he brings this energy to the Yankees too as well. I love it.
Yeah,
he did give up 7 hits in 5 innings, but I feel like that's always been a thing with Nestor. I mean, his whip is not that great, but if they're singles, time.
yeah, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, people will look at that and say 7 hits. Well, he probably got out of trouble a lot. Well, he didn't walk any, and he only struck out 3. So the ball was going in play, and I think that's Nestor at his best, to be honest. I don't. It'd be better for him if he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Like we've seen it with Cole the first 2 starts. Strikeouts take a lot of pitches. And if you're not going to hit home runs or hit the ball hard, why not put it in play? Our defenders can make plays, but yeah, Bohm was 3 for 4 in this one. Turner was 2 for 5. Bohm did have 2 hits off of Nestor, and Turner only had 1. So they did a little damage against the relievers, but Torres, great game here. He was 2 for 2 with 3 walks, a home run, and an infield single. Trevino was 2 for 4 with 2 singles. And LeMahieu was 2 for 5 with a triple in the first inning. That was a interesting play. Tough game from Brandon Marsh for the Phillies. Obviously, he got, I guess, thrown behind and got at third by Nestor in the 4th inning, whenever that was. And the first batter of the game for the Yankees hits a single into center, and it would have been tough for him to go and dive and catch that, but he did not keep it in front, and it rolled all the way to the warning track, and then the right fielder had to come over and get it. And if that's someone else, it might be an inside the Parker, but don't think there's anything else from this game. Let's see here.
Want to move to game 2?
Loizaga and Holmes both no runs in this game, which was big. But yeah, I think we can go to game 2.
All right, yeah. So obviously this was a tough game at the punt lineup. The Yankees lost 4-1. Schwarber crushed a solo shot off Herman in the first, and Marsh hit another solo shot in the 3rd inning to make it 2-0. Then Volpe, unfortunately, he got the out at second, but he bobbled it, and it would have got us out of the inning. They ended up scoring 2 more runs. Then in the 9th, we showed a little bit of life, the only life we showed the entire game offensively. DJ hit a solo shot to make it 4-1. And then we had the tying run up at the plate, but Donaldson popped out to first in foul territory. But, yeah, we only had 4 hits, and offensively it was very pathetic. I mean, giving up 4 runs, they do still have a decent lineup, so I didn't think it was, terrible, but we just offensively didn't really put up a fight.
No, yeah, definitely. I think, honestly, offensively, it wasn't the worst showing. I know they didn't really score, but they were hitting the ball well. DJ had a couple balls that he hit pretty far. Stanton just got under one. It was just one of those days where it wasn't meant to be. They were hitting the ball decently hard all day, and they didn't fall. So I think it's part of their approach. When you have an approach like they do, there's going to be days where fly balls or they just don't leave the park. It's cold. It's not really the middle of the summer yet. I think once it gets there, the balls will start flying a little bit more. Got to chalk up these games when you are that type of team that does only score on homers for the most part. So I think the pitching was fine. I mean, obviously, Volpe should have made that play. That's probably a double play out of the inning. And who knows if they're only down 2-0 instead of 4, what happens. But overall, I think it wasn't the worst game ever. Obviously, you lose the game, but you're going to lose plenty of games over the 162-game season.
Yeah, this was one that I texted you guys before the game, and I said we lost before the ball was even thrown.
Yeah.
And this was the prime game with the Jonas Brothers in the booth. They were in the radio booth, and then they went up into the TV one, and just Strahm started the game for the Phillies. He went 4 innings, only gave up 1 hit, but I thought he really made a lot of mistakes, and the Yankees just missed him. There were some pitches that that usually leave the yard that just missed. A couple of deep flyouts to the heels on the warning track type balls. Just a couple too many missed good opportunities there, and kind of one of these losses that I think we saw a lot last year. They kind of put something together late and get the tying run up and just lose. But if you're getting the tying run up in the game like that, I think you take your chances because they were not the better team and they had a chance to steal one. But the Phillies really needed this one. This is their first and only win of the MLB season so far. They did go with their high leverage guys. Alvarado was ridiculous. 3 strikeouts in an inning. His 94-mile-an-hour cutter off his 100-mile-an-hour sinker is pretty nuts. I'm glad that we don't have to see that anymore. Brogdon pitched 2 innings, 1 hit, and then Kimbrel actually looked pretty shaky at the end. But Herman, not a great start, 4 earned. I do think 2 of those were after he left the game when King came in. He did have 8 strikeouts, so he did have his swing and miss stuff, but when you miss location to Schwarber, it's going to leave the yard. And it did, and they kept hyping it up that Schwarber's. But King, 4 hits, only got 4 outs. You guys worried about Michael King a little bit? His velocity was down. Boone said it's not an injury. They're just looking at a couple mechanical things, but obviously just 2 appearances, I think, for King. But I think I'm about as worried about him as you can be after 2 appearances. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been great, and he is not the guy that we saw last year, at least as of now. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully he can fix it, but what are your guys' thoughts on Michael King here?
Well, I think that first off, like whenever you come off like an injury like that, or any injury, you play a little bit scared in the beginning, I think. But I think that the velocity, yes, it's a big deal, but I think he'll work his way back up. And if he doesn't after like a month or so, then I'd be really worried. But I think this is just a small sample size. It's only been 2 games.
Yeah, it seems, at least from what I'm watching, it's been location issues. I mean, obviously the velocity isn't at the 97, 98 where it can be at times. But overall, I'm not really worried about King. A lot of these guys, relievers are so shaky from year to year, from week to week, from day to day even. So we'll let him get settled back in. Who knows? We had Clay Holmes look terrible, and then we've seen him the last 2 times out, and he's looked back to normal. And we'll talk about that a little bit into going into game 3. But with these guys, you just gotta give and take stuff, and hopefully that they're just healthy throughout the season and can give you good innings.
Yeah, so Abreu threw 42 pitches in this one. I think he's probably the long guy now, where we're at with the bullpen. King may be a long guy, but we talked about it last time. He's a high leverage guy too. But Abreu seems to be the innings eater right now. But yeah, the Volpe error doesn't go down as an error because obviously he still got an out, but that was big, I think, and unfortunately the pitchers weren't able to pick him up there. But yeah, I think we're good. Both you guys said your stuff on game 2, right? So I think we'll go to game 3.
Yeah, game 3. I mean, this was for the series. So there's 1-1 going into this game. Yankees came out on top. It was an ace battle today, Cole versus Nola, and I would say it kind of lived up to the hype. The Yankees scored 1 in the first inning. Judge continues to get on every single game for like the past almost 40, I think it is at this point. And then the Yankees they benefited a little from when Judge stole. Glaber should have struck out a couple times, but hey, umpires aren't perfect. And then Glaber hit a nice little bloop single into left. It's nice to get those type of hits as the Yankees. We're so used to hitting the ball 100 miles an hour plus, sometimes getting robbed. So a bloop from here to here from time to time isn't bad. And then overall, Cole just looked dominant. Again, I wouldn't say he had his best stuff today. He was kind of hesitant around the zone at times, but he was getting ahead of guys and for the most part blowing stuff by guys for the most part. We ran into a little trouble late in the 7th inning, but Loizaga was able to keep that ball in the park when it was bases loaded after he had just hit home, and they hit that ball to the warning track. I mean, that's 20 feet away from it being a totally different game. So we lucked out there, got out of that, and then the insurance run, which I think we missed a lot last season, and that a team like the Yankees doesn't do a lot. I think good teams do it a lot. Is get those insurance runs late in game. 2-1 isn't going to do it a lot of the times, and we knew that probably wasn't going to be the case this game. And we were right because right after Trevino hit the 2-run homer to make it 4-1, Schwarber came right back with the homer. So it made for Clay Holmes' outing in the ninth much easier, less stress free when it's not a 1-run game. You have stuff to play with. He looked great. I mean, I know we were really worried about him after the Giants series, but his last two outings have looked pretty good. What do you guys think about Holmes?
Yeah, I mean, he looked great. I think, yeah, today he had three strikeouts in the innings, so he struck out the side. That was good. But the thing is with closers, I feel like most of them, ever since like Mariano Rivera, I feel like no one is ever going to be like that again, basically, like where you come and you know the game's over. But like this mentality, like they have to think they're going to shut like the lineup down, and they try, but sometimes the closers are terrible. Sometimes, like, I feel like he's gonna have terrible games this year, but we just gotta stick with him because I think he is our guy. But he's gonna have bad games, and we can't just harp on the bad games.
Yeah, usually with Holmes and going back to Chapman too, you could tell early on what was going to happen for the most part. I was listening to this one on the radio, so I didn't see how it looked, but great sign for Holmes. And I just think, the inconsistency, it happens. A lot of closers deal with this, but the part that makes fans mad is when they're awesome and then they're not. It's just like, well, you've done this for four, 5, 6 games in a row, and then you pull out a stinker. But it happens. I think Clay, it really just comes down to who's the real Clay. First half Clay from last year at a .3 ERA, or second half Clay who had something like a 5 ERA. Obviously, something in the middle is probably true, but if we can get 3 or 4 good outings for every bad outing, I think that's a deal that we're gonna have to take. Because Holmes is, when he's on, that sinker's on. There's no hitting it. And I think he only gave up 1 home run last year to Perez from Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I met Clay Holmes. He's one of my favorite players, and I'm hoping that that he can get consistency and get going. Because if the batters are seeing it well, they're really locked in. Pitchers can get locked in too. I mean, when Holmes is going, he is just, the glove's being set up in the middle of the strike zone, and he's bang, sinker, strike, bang, sinker, strike. Maybe he'll pull off a slider to fool somebody, but yeah, I would, maybe not as much as Chapman, because you would know after one pitch what was going to happen with Chapman. But do you guys agree that you can tell probably after 5 or 6 pitches, for the most part, how the day's going to go for Clay?
Yeah, I think it's all based off his slider. He came out today and threw 3 straight sliders. And like when you're doing that, you're confident in your pitches, and it makes your sinker a much more playable pitch. When you can get the slider over, the sinker becomes batting practice, no matter how nice it is, because one pitch pitcher isn't going to do the job. It's all about secondary pitches. Not everyone can get away with a Mo cutter, like Chris said, and stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. You can tell with relievers. Relievers only need 2 pitches. Starters probably need 3 to 4. And you can tell pretty early. If you're not getting your secondary pitch over, your first pitch is not going to work at all. So if Clay can continue to throw strikes, especially with the slider, I'll live with the results. Even if we get dinked and dunked to death, I'll live with the results as long as it isn't walks.
Yeah, so Cole,
I think Jackson covered that.
Go ahead, Chris.
Jackson covered that. Basically what I was going to say, so you're good.
Yeah, there was before we move on, there was an at-bat, I believe it was 2 years ago, when Clay was, right after we got him at Fenway, and Bogarts was up for Boston, and he threw him 3 straight sliders, and he swung and missed on all of them. There were 3 great pitches. So, a couple of the Giants' 3-0 hits were against Clay, I believe. When you're
Once you
loading up
hit
for the
bomb.
sinker, that's when damage happens. But when you just have to even think about the slider, and you can't be locked in all on the sinker, it just makes it so much harder. And like you said, the exit velocity game, it might be annoying when it doesn't work, but most of the time, it's gonna work. So, yeah, I like how Clay's been used here. He was game 1 and game 3. No game tomorrow. I think he should be available Friday.
Yep.
But Loizaga, for you two who watched the game today, Loizaga, I know he had a hit batter, 2 hits. What was the story of Loizaga today? And like why did they hit the ball today? If I'm asking, I was just listening to John and Susan, so I didn't really see him.
Jackson, you want to take this one? Because
Yeah,
I
and
didn't see.
I mean, Loizaga is a different pitcher, like any reliever when he comes in with guys on base than he does with a clean inning. Obviously, Boone feels that he's a guy who can come in with these guys on base. That's what Michael King has had to do over the years, especially this season. Loizaga has to do from time to time. You're just not going to get your best stuff, and Loizaga is one of the guys that he's good enough to when he doesn't have his good stuff, he can get out of it. But I mean, he started getting hit hard right away. I think Stott hit a single into right, pulled it. Then next pitch, he hits Bohm in the back, not even close. And then Cave, I think, almost goes deep. So it's like, it really wasn't anything beautiful. And we just got lucky. He was just off today. And Loizaga is going to have to go back to a couple years ago where he was that guy every single time he went out. But until then, I think our bullpen that was pretty elite coming into the year has now gotten shortened down into a couple of question marks, especially guys like Loizaga, King, obviously Holmes. I know Wandy was a little rough during spring training and even this year a little bit. So it's going to be a little tough for now. I think guys will get into a groove. It's still game 6 of 162, so I wouldn't worry too much as long as these guys are healthy. I mean, Loizaga was throwing like 98, 99, so we know he's at least healthy at the moment. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but we were about 20 feet, like I said, from this game going a completely other direction.
Yeah, so both players just 16 pitches today. They should be available for Friday after the day off. Cole 6 1/3, 3 hits, 1 earned. That was after he came out of the game too. That was the sac fly run. He had 8 Ks, 103 pitches. It's hard not to like where Garrett Cole's at this year. Opening day was awesome. 6 shut against the Giants, 6 1/3. Should have been shut here if Loizaga didn't give up a couple hits. But, I mean, could Garrett Cole have had a better start to the year? He's already hitting 103 pitches in start 2. And his next start will be against, who do we got after the Orioles? Ooh, in Cleveland. So that'll be a good game. But, yeah, thoughts about Garrett. You talked about him earlier, Jackson, but I just can't wait till his next start. And that's not how it's always been. No homers yet. I know it's 2 games, but that can be his thing. And the only thing I would say is maybe he doesn't have to strike everybody out, because it does take a lot of pitches. Obviously, he was, when he's feeling it, he's striking everybody out. But I think they can be a little bit of pitch count eaters. Some of these innings where he's striking 3 out, but it's on 17 pitches or something. But yeah, thoughts on Garrett Cole so far, and best possible start we could ask for, right?
Yeah, well, he's just been phenomenal. But one thing is, like, I think Jackson said earlier in the other podcast, is like, just takes one inning for Cole. I mean, he is great. Obviously, one of the elite pitchers in baseball, but he has some bad innings, and it's just limiting the damage. Whether he gives up a 2-run home run, just leave it at that. Can he get through that adversity? Can he leave the 2-run home run on the board and just strike the other guys out? And like you said, he needs to stop going to the strikeout. I mean, obviously it's great, but his pitch count is getting pretty high up there, and he's not going like super deep into all these games. But he does look phenomenal, so I'm not going to complain there. It's just maybe a little bit more pitching to contact and getting some fly balls or ground balls, and then
Yeah, like
that
you
would
said,
just be perfect. But he's pretty darn close to perfect.
like you said, Guardians next, or like I said, Guardians next start. Like you said, they can put the ball in play better than probably any other team. So
Yeah.
You were probably not going to get the 9-10 strikeout game from Cole. Maybe you get 5-6. Trust your fielders against the Guardians. That's what I would say, and that's the key to going deep in the game. But yeah, I think that was game 3 recap. We're at 25 minutes here, so we'll get into our
Yeah.
awards and then Orioles
Yeah.
preview, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll do our king of the series and our disappointment of the series. King of the series. Who started last time with it? Who went first? Chris went
I'm
first.
leading off this time.
You're leading off first because
No, I'm
Jackson
leading
went.
off this.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle always. We'll switch the order up every episode. All right, Chris, who you got for
Yeah.
the king
So
of the Phillies
obviously
series?
the king has got to be Gloobs. It's got to be Gleyber Torres. That's our little nickname for him. Sean knows where it came from. I don't exactly know. I think it was just like a fan put it on some Yankees account or whatever. But he was just phenomenal. He looks so locked in at the plate. His home runs, all his at bats. He's had walks. He has 5 stolen bases. I literally had to double check when they told me that. I was like, "You have 5 stolen bases?" Like, I think last year he only had like 12 or something. Like, this is ridiculous. But he's not going to keep that up. But he's just been phenomenal. He just looks so locked in, and I'm just so excited because he was one that people were talking about. Maybe we might move on from, and at this rate, he's one of the most important hitters for our lineup right now. So
Yeah, that's the obvious one, and we're not going to double up on awards this year, so we can talk about a couple different players. But yeah, Chris, he's super locked in. He's hitting in the 400s, getting on base more than half the time. I mean, he's had these stretches before, but it really does seem like something's different with him going to Venezuela for the WBC, or not to Venezuela, but to play for them. I'm gonna go with Jose Trevino. I think he had a really good series, 2 for 4 in game 1. Higgy got game 2, and then obviously he hit the big insurance home run today that Jackson was talking about. He had the unbelievable first half last year and really had a terrible second half, and he was an all-star. But I really like what I'm seeing from him so far. Looks like he's going to get 2 out of every 3 days, or 3 out of every 5, however you're going to look at it. But I'm going to go with Trevino for the king of the series.
No, definitely. I think it's been our catching position as of this last couple of years has been definitely a bright spot for the Yankees. I mean, we expect them to be good defensively, but when they can be putting up these hits that give us insurance runs, or in other cases just go ahead, like it's really nice to have. So I mean, again, I'm gonna stick with our third one. I'm gonna stick with hitting. I think that could have given it to Cole. He pitched very well today, but I think expected at this point he's gonna really have to wow me, or at least go like 8 shutout to get a star or whatever. So I think I'm gonna go with DJ. Every single at bat looks competitive these days, and I can't say it looked like that last year. To hit the top of the order and to have competitive at bats, he's hitting the ball hard, and that's all I really care about. Results are going to be results. You can't really control that. He hits the ball hard, and I think that now that he's elevating the ball a little bit more, I mean, again, if he was fast, he had a triple in the gap today and stuff like that. Unfortunately, he's very, very slow, but he does hit the ball well, and he can play multiple different positions very well. And I know he played third, and then played. He's just very valuable to have when he's healthy. So I'm gonna have him be my person of the week.
Yeah, we're gonna.
well, quickly, that helps Judge so much though, having him healthy. And now they're going to be like, oh, we can't pitch around DJ. We got to pitch to him, and he gets on. He gets a double, whatever. He gets a single, whatever. On for Judge, 2-run home run now versus solo shot. And we didn't have that last year, and this is really important for our success, I think.
Yeah, him and
truly don't fit.
DJ and Torres. Typically, they'll be in the first or fifth spot, and around the big 3. I mean, 5 good hitters instead of 3 is a huge difference. It's more than half the lineup rather than 1/3. So, yeah, we'll go back to disappointments now. Snake it back around. Jackson, you're first up.
I'm gonna say that without giving it to the bullpen as a whole, I'm gonna give it to Loizaga. I have not loved what I saw from him so far. I feel like he is a very dominant reliever and just been getting hit very hard. I mean, again, I don't trust that it's going to be anything long term. Hard to pinpoint a singular hitter or starting pitcher for this award or lack of award, but I'll go with Loizaga. I really need to see more dominant outings from him. I feel like the last couple of years have been a little shaky when I really do believe he's probably, if not our best arm, one of our best arms.
Yeah, he's certainly got the best stuff, I think. Like his slurve or whatever you want to call it off of his two-seamer. I mean, takes some talent to put that ball in play, but I'm gonna go with Domingo. I just think that he he did have 8 strikeouts, but like I said, the 2 homers were perfect pitches to hit, and yeah, it just we needed a little more from him in this game, and we're going to need a little more than that in the future because as of now, he is in the starting lineup. We heard some injury news about Rodon and Sevy throwing, simulated games or bullpens or stuff like that, so help is on the way, but I think Herman will at least get 2 more starts. So we're going to need more than that. Herman showed that he can, we don't need 8 shutout from Domingo, but 5 innings, 2 earned, something in that ballpark, and that'll be it. But Herman's my disappointment of the series. So, Chris, take it away with the last one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with not a player. I'm going to go with Aaron Boone. I understand that we have to give players off days, but this lineup that he put out for game 2, when you have Donaldson, Hicks, Connor Falefa, and Higashioka go, 0 for 13, and that's just like, I don't think you put all 4 of them together in the lineup. I just think that's absolutely horrible. I would have liked to see Cabrera in there. I understand Hicks needs to play a little bit, but this leads me to another thing. What do you think of Hicks? Like, I think we have to get rid of him as soon as possible. The fans are giving it to him, and I feel bad because he's a good guy and stuff, but like he needs to get out of New York. He really does.
Yeah, the comments that he made to The Athletic, he expected to be. It sort of came off to me that he was expecting to be in there like a lot, and no measure. I don't know if it was a communication issue from the franchise, but no like sort of results would have signified that he would have been in there more, and it's clearly affecting his game. He's fine as a defender. Everett has been an issue in the past, but with Cordero being all right, and Kiner Falefa playing the outfield, and Cabrera, there's just like I think if we once we get Bader back, one of the outfielders is going to have to leave. And if Franchi keeps playing all right,
I think it's 100% him.
I think a Hicks DFA is coming. He's only on the hook for $10 million a year.
Yep.
Yankees will eat that. But yeah, the experiment has to end. I'm sure he'll figure it out somewhere else, like we see a lot. But I think he should be DFA'd.
Yeah, I mean, Hicks doesn't make those comments if he doesn't think that's going to get him out of New York. He wants out. I mean, you don't make those type of comments to the public if you don't want backlash or stuff like that. So obviously he's still going to try to win. I mean, he's a competitive player. All these guys are going to try to do the best for themselves and for the team. I don't see any world where the Yankees DFA him just because I don't think that's how the Yankees roll. I think when
it's not usually how they roll.
And I think they view... I know Judge is their backup center fielder even with Bader healthy, but I think they still view Hicks as... But I guess IKF could be their third-string center fielder now, so you really don't know where Hicks fits in. Honestly... He's probably still a better bat than Oswaldo Cabrera. However, Oswaldo does a lot of other things really well. But Oswaldo should have probably been on one of our disappointments of the week because he has just not had competitive at bats.
He did have 2 hits in the last Giants game, and then he didn't play the first 2 Phillies games.
Yeah,
so that's why I think Boone. Good Boone call there, Chris.
Yeah, he should probably play a little bit more. But I mean, if we're having him in the lineup, a catcher in the lineup, and Volpe at this point in the lineup. And Donaldson possibly or IKF, like your bottom 4 out of 9 in the lineup is bad. It's very bad at this point. So I think it's important that one of these guys has to step up. Volpe, I'll give him a pass for now. He's 21-year-old rookie. He's played in 2 series, but guys like Cabrera, I mean, we got to put together more quality at bats. But yeah, Hicks should never play. Like it just doesn't make sense at this point. It's just not good for him, not good for the team. I think he honestly still has a little bit left in him as a hitter. Like, he does have a good eye.
Oh, yeah.
And whether that means he's just not.
But I think he goes up. he's lost so much confidence that I think he goes up there looking for a walk, without a question.
Yeah, he's not as good of an actual hitter
And
anymore. So
if you know
yeah,
that as a pitcher, that the guy's not trying to put the ball in play, I mean, you could throw the ball anywhere.
yeah, it just Hicks's at bat is really dependent on whether the pitcher throws him enough strikes or not. At this point, it's just there's no pop anymore.
It,
In the outfield, he's fine. I mean, he
yeah,
has
he's
a
fine.
couple bad, hits, but no one really cares. I mean, I wouldn't really mind him playing every once in a while, but I just don't believe he wants to do that.
Yeah.
If he wants to play IKS role and literally only play if people get hurt or once every 4 games, be my guess. But he clearly does not want that.
Yeah, I think it was big. It was a big reading the tea leaves moment when Judge has not been in center field. It's been Kiner Falefa. It's not been Hicks, who is a career center fielder. I know, left field's tough to play at Yankee Stadium too, but they're throwing Cabrera there. I think if they had more confidence in Hicks as an organization, we'd see him in center and Kiner in left. But yeah, I do think it just has to end. He can't be having. It can't be good for his mental health or like that, and I think he's still got something left in the tank, like you said, Jackson. I do think it has to be somewhere else, though. Former Yankee who had a tough time in New York is killing it over in Minnesota right now. It's hit 3 bombs already. That's Joey Gallo, if you didn't put it together. But yeah, so I think Hicks has got to go, and I'm surprised none of us picked him for disappointment. But I mean, do we really expect more from him at
We're
this
used
point?
to it.
Yeah, so that's our awards. We'll keep track of them. I'll set up an Excel where we can, if we double up on a guy, we see a couple patterns of a lot of dislike for a player. I'm like sure of it, but we'll end off with injury news before a preview for the next series. So Donaldson is most likely headed to the injured list. It looked like he injured his hamstring. I think it was on a fly out to center. And Kiner Falefa came in and played third base, had a couple nice plays there, but it looks like to me that Donaldson will be going to the IL, and I think Peraza will be the one who comes up. Maybe Peraza can get some time, but that seems to be the situation there. I don't think any other names come to mind as like genuine third baseman who could fill in. I know we have DJ who could play there. I think they'd probably play Kiner there. So
Probably a reliever, theoretically.
They're already at the max pitchers.
They are at the max
Yeah,
pitchers?
you're only allowed 13.
So I guess theoretically it would be. So they're even at the max pitchers with 4 starters right now? Wow.
Yeah, well, they just have an extra bullpen piece.
Yeah, they did extra bullpen.
Yeah, so they still have
when
13
Brito went
pitchers.
down.
That's still
No, yeah. That's just kind of crazy. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Peraza's just going to call him up not to play him. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe give a Volpe a day off every once in a while because as of now, can't really give him a day off. No one's really playing short. So
Yeah.
I guess that makes the most sense. But I mean, I guess if there were to be a position to be injured, it would be an infielder. We do have a surplus of them right now. It's going to hurt, honestly. Donaldson is our best glove by far there and does bring a power threat, whatever you want to count that as. But what are you going to do?
But yep, we'll look forward to the Orioles series. It was supposed to open up tomorrow. It has been postponed. I think that's fine, honestly. Going all the way down there to Baltimore, playing another day game tomorrow, and getting a day off, it just doesn't. I know they do it for opening day for this exact reason if there's a rain delay. But they get tomorrow off. Friday at 3 o'clock will be the game. It'll be Clark Schmidt against Dean Kremer. Both pitchers struggled a lot in their first start, so a good opportunity for the Yankees to pick up a win there. Game 2 will be at 7 o'clock on Saturday, and it'll be Nestor Cortez against Cole Irvin. That's what it has here on ESPN. Brito is being skipped, so Nestor will get another start here. Cole Irvin also struggled in his first start. The Orioles pitchers really did struggle in their first series against Boston. Then they did take 2 out of 3 in Texas, where they pitched a little bit better. So then Game 3 will they can hit. Game 3, 1:35 on Sunday. Easter Sunday will be Domingo Herman, most likely for the
How fitting.
Yankees. And
Yeah,
How
Domingo.
fitting.
My favorite Domingo Sunday starts. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
and
Me
then
too.
the Orioles have not named a starter yet, so we'll see what they do there. It would make sense for. Let's see who started their game 5 games ago. Kyle Bradish, okay, or Tyler Well. It was
I
more of an opener.
think
All right, well we'll see who starts for them.
I think Braddock got hurt. I think Gibson
Okay.
would be in line to start.
Okay,
If I'm not mistaken.
but yeah, the Orioles are
Um,
not a terrible team this year. So I think, it's on the road. Left field is funky there, so we'll see who they put there. I would assume Judge is probably going to be in center 2 of the 3 games, and he'll probably not play the other one because he hasn't gotten an off day yet. Right field, maybe Stanton gets 1 game out there. Right field is not huge, but also not that small there. But it's just the monstrous left field, so no Stanton left. And I don't think there's anything really to look out for other than maybe that Donaldson IL move. See who comes up. It'll probably be Peraza, but another good chance to win the series. And
Well, yeah, I would say look for a lot of runs from the Yankees offense just because their Orioles pitching, yes, their offense is much improved. Their lineup is so much better this year, but their pitching still stinks.
yeah, it might be
That's
worse
that's
than
the
last
reason
year,
why they're
actually.
not. That's the reason why I wasn't very high on the Orioles this year. Like, I think they'll be right around 500. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but their offense is getting so much better, and they're just calling up a bunch of young prospects. Just called up another pitching prospect, but their starters are pretty bad. So, we saw what the Red Sox did to them, scoring like 10 runs, 8 runs, whatever.
Then the
We
Red
should be able
Sox
to do
just
that,
got
and then some.
swept at home by the Pirates.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we should do that and
Yeah.
then some. So
yeah,
look for a 12-run game or something. Look for
I'm
something.
sure that
I
one
don't
of
think we're
these.
that.
Go ahead, Jackson.
I don't think we're that caliber of an offense. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna win games. And
We're better than the Red Sox offense. I think we can put up at least 10 in one of these games.
I
Yeah.
honestly would say we're not better than the Red Sox offense, but either way,
Really?
we should score. Our bottom half is too bad to be considered better than them. I think our top half is good, but our having 4 out of 9 guys is not really be that really major league caliber hitters at this moment has kind of hurt us. We'll see. I don't think that the Yankees will be able to score that much. I think you go and try to take 2 out of 3 and you try to pitch. I mean, we're not gonna have Cole, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, so after it'll be Easter Sunday. We're not sure when we'll do our Orioles series recap. The Guardian series starts Monday, so
What time on Monday?
6 o'clock on Monday.
Oh, we can definitely do it like Monday morning. or
Yeah.
something.
If
That works
but-
for you guys.
Yeah, so that might be just Jackson and Chris. I'll be on the airplane, but
We'll
see.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in to tonight's episode of the Yankees Kingdom podcast. We recapped the Phillies series. We previewed the Orioles series. 2 series wins so far for the Yankees. Let's make it 3. This episode is presented by Sports Daily Media Network and picks by Chris. Thanks for tuning in to our live. Be sure to check out the Instagram. Might not be super highlights driven this weekend because we're on break and some of us will be busy, but we'll get to it if we can. And